welcome to Turn the Page, the official podcast of the Syosset Public Library.
Welcome, everybody. We're here with Kathleen West. This is Turn the Page podcast from the Syosset Public Library. I am Evelyn Hershkowitz, Reader Services Librarian. And like I said, we're here with Kathleen West, and I'm really happy to have her here. This is our second time speaking with her. First time we spoke to her when she came out with her first novel, Minor Dramas and Other Catastrophes. So Kathleen West novels have been best book picks by Real Simple, Newsweek, People Magazine, Entertainment Weekly, Good Morning America, and the New York Post. She's a school teacher with more than 20 years experience. Kathleen is particularly interested in the topics of motherhood, ambition, competitive parenting, and elusiveness of work-life balance. A new novel, Home or Away, was published just this past Tuesday on the 29th of March. She's a lifelong Minnesotan and lives in Minneapolis with her family. And we're here to talk about her third novel called Home or Away. Thank you so much for joining us, Kathleen.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so nice to be here.
It's great. And we'd just like for you to tell all of our listeners what Home or Away is about.
Sure. It's about two women who were both on the cusp of making the Olympic hockey team in 2002. And one of them makes it. And then the other one, my main character, Lee, does not. And after that happens, her life changes radically. She quits the sport forever, marries her college boyfriend, moves to Florida, and thinks she's left sports totally behind until their son, Gus, wants to be an elite hockey player himself. And that prompts her to move back to Minnesota and rejoin the world that she left behind and face all the secrets that she thought she left behind as well.
For those of you who are hockey fans, this is going to be a great book. There's so much about hockey. I have to admit, I'm not a hockey person, but it doesn't matter because the story is also a family story and a friendship story and a marriage and secrets and roles and so many other things. So hockey's there. It's definitely a main part of it, but it's also a great story about all those other things. So what made you decide to write a book about hockey?
Yes, well, I love sports. I grew up in middle school and high school running cross country and track, and athletics has really been a big part of my life since then. I'm not like an elite athlete by any stretch of the imagination, but I have always loved it. My kids are also athletes, and I think sports are such a big part of parenting culture in America and something I'm interested in exploring, especially in terms of like how much sports can rule the family life. That's something that I'm thinking about in my life stage, and I'm hearing a lot about from other people that I know. In terms of hockey, something that hockey has that I find to be very interesting and troubling about it is that if you don't start playing when you're very young, you don't learn to skate as a toddler, then it's very, very hard to become good at the sport, like good enough to play on your high school team or good enough to be competitive. So I think it has an extra layer of intensity around it as compared to some other sports like running that you can take up as a teenager or later and still reach a really high level. So hockey requires a lot of a family. And that's why I kind of picked it. In addition, women's hockey really started in the mid-90s. So my main character, Lee McKenzie, would have been like a pioneer in women's hockey. And the first time women's hockey was contested at the Olympics was 1998. And she's on the bubble for the 2002 Olympic hockey team. So she would really have been at the forefront and kind of carried the responsibility of being a pioneer, which I thought would be interesting for her character.
Right. Are any of the characters based on real people that you know?
Well, I always love to think about people that I know. There's a character in the story who's a hockey manager, and she just appears in intermittently. You see an email from head manager Kathy Kelleher, and she is not based on a real person, but I had a lot of fun poking fun at the types of emails you get from the Hockey Association in Kathy's voice. It takes a lot to put all that together. Like the people who do manage the hockey team, like God bless them, like I don't have those skills, but sometimes it's hard to take seriously like all the mundane details of sporting life. So my Kathy's definitely based on my email inbox. Otherwise, the characters are not based on anybody that I actually know, but my main character, Lee, this time has a lot of my own personal qualities. I'm a pretty intense person, a pretty competitive person, pretty driven. So I really connected with her, even though I haven't achieved her level of success.
Okay. And those emails were a hoot, that's for sure. They were definitely fun to read.
Thank you. I think of myself as a funny writer, and
Uh-huh.
my first two books definitely had a lot of humor in them. And this
Right.
book, it's about more serious themes. Lee, when she's trying to be the best at hockey, she's willing to do anything and everything. So she has an assistant coach that manipulates her, takes advantage of her, makes her feel like if she has an affair with him, that her chances will be greater, that she'll make the team. And there's really nothing funny about that type of situation. So
Right.
I really liked it when I got to like a Kathy Kelleher email. I'm like, okay, well, this is a spot that we can bring some humor into the book.
Yeah, well, talking about Lee and her coach, you also brought in the Me Too movement from that.
Yeah, it hadn't really been my plan to do that at the outset, but then when I started writing about somebody who would leave her world entirely behind, it seemed like that would be, of course, what happened to her. I'm in my mid 40s now, and unfortunately, like I just don't really know anyone who hasn't either been like the victim of an official like sexual harassment or assault, or at least like been part of a really icky situation that makes them
Right.
feel like crap. So it's so ubiquitous, unfortunately. And for her, someone who views herself as so powerful physically and mentally, I thought that it would be especially crushing. And I think you can see that like the athletes who've come forward in the last several years about their own
Right.
experiences with sexual assault and harassment, like the reckoning that it makes them take, like it's a lot. So yeah, it kind of came into the story organically.
Well, it was needed, absolutely. No doubt about that. I also want to mention the great cover.
Yeah, I got so lucky with the cover. Today actually, when we're recording, oh, there it is. Yes,
Nobody can see it because this is
okay.
only audio, but it's a great picture. I love the coloring. It's a great blue, and it's a picture of a house all enveloped in ice.
Yes. I mean, authors don't have a lot of say on their covers. And in my case, that's really good because I don't have a lot of artistic skill at all.
Okay.
But I've gotten really, really lucky with my cover design. And Emily Osborne is the person who art directs it. And this one I really like because the way the house is encased in an ice cube, it distorts the windows. Like the windows are different sizes and shapes based on like the way they're kind of reflected or encased in the ice. And I think it's a nice symbol for how each character in the story is looking at the past a little bit differently.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's definitely eye-catching. It's interesting. Also, the title is great. Home or Away.
Thank you. The original title of the book, again, like titles, I'm not that great at titles either. The first title was Overtime, which I liked fine. And then we started playing with other titles and we came to Home or Away, which I like for a lot of reasons. Because there's a lot of drama, like you said, in the marriage between Lee and her husband Charlie, and then also at the rink between Lee and her former teammate and former coach. And also because it tends to be the question that parents ask their kids when they leave the house for a game or a sporting event. Like, are you home or away? Because it depends which jersey you need.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
That's definitely important.
Yep.
To make sure you have the right jersey. You don't want to
That's
go
right.
out with the wrong coloring. It's definitely important. I was reading the Goodread reviews, all the
Oh, you're
Goodreads.
so brave. I don't read that.
I was going to ask you, do you read? Well, I didn't write the book, you did. But I like to, see what other people are saying.
Yeah.
You got excellent. I mean, if I was you, it wouldn't hurt you at all to read the
Okay.
reviews.
Good to know.
because
Maybe
the
I'll
reviews
take
were
a look.
excellent. I mean, it was a 4.11 or something, which is
Oh,
very
that's
high.
good. Yeah,
Yeah, you
that's
got excellent reviews, because the last book I read, which I really loved, I went and read the reviews, and I'm the only one that liked the book.
isn't that amazing?
Which
Like
is really weird to me. I'm like reading the book. I'm not going to say what it is, but and I was like loving every minute of it. I couldn't wait to get back to it. And then I read the reviews and I'm like, this is crazy. And then I
yeah,
read your reviews and I agree with them. They were excellent.
good.
People were loving
Okay.
it. They loved the relationships. They loved everything about the book. They just were over the top great reviews. So
Oh,
if
well,
you
that's awesome to hear. Yeah, I'm very sensitive about reviews, but of course, like I want people to connect with the characters, and I'm hopeful that, there are so many people that I know that deal with sports and sports culture. Like I'm hopeful that this book might strike a nerve and be popular with that crowd.
yeah,
And obviously, not everyone is going to like my work, but I'm very gratified when people do.
right. How did you research this if you're not a hockey mom, right?
I am a hockey
Oh,
mom
you
of a
are a hockey
one
mom.
of my kids plays hockey.
Okay.
So I knew that stuff, but still like I needed to do quite a lot of research. You'd think that because I've been watching hockey for like 10 years, I would know the rules and things, but I don't. I am really lucky to know some excellent people who are also hockey experts, and they were generous and let me interview them for hours. One youth coach in particular, Alex Bisby, I talked to him for lots and lots of hours about like how he feels coaching kids. Like, can he tell which kids are going to be good from watching them skate when they're 6? What's he thinking about? Like, how much credit or blame does he take for wins and losses? What is his attitude on the bench? Like, what does he admire about other coaches? All of that stuff I like really needed to know. And then I also got to talk to a couple of Olympic women's hockey players, which was
Wow.
a huge thrill for me. I never had talked to like Olympians before. One of the women that I talked to has a full set of medals. Like she won a gold in 98 and a silver in '02 and a bronze in '06.
Wow.
So she's got all three. And I just loved hearing their enthusiasm and intensity for the sport and the ways that being the best in the world has shaped their lives and how they handle wins and losses. And it was also really interesting to hear about how these women parent their children through sports.
Hmm.
They are the pinnacle, right? Like they are the best of the best. And then how does that change or impact the way that you mentor your children through their pursuits? I was so fascinated by that. Um, I just really, really enjoyed the conversations that I had. I also got to talk to like an All-American hockey player at the University of Minnesota. And then one of my favorite high school players, who's a good friend of my son's, who's a senior in high school, he and his mom like read and edited all of the hockey game scenes.
Oh, okay.
They would like draw diagrams and like put the players on the ice with X's and O's and make sure that it made sense. And I was talking about offense and defense in the right places, all that stuff.
Yeah, those households must be very intense.
Yeah, they are. They are very intense. And I really admired it. And I was just sort of in awe, like, and also so curious about what kind of energy it takes to become the best in the world and then what you do with that once you're done with your athletic career.
Yeah, no, well, in the book, she changes her career.
Yeah, she totally changes. And then this is wild, but my book just came out on Tuesday and
Right.
I ordered some cookies for the launch. And when I picked them up, my baker had been an Olympic level rifle shooter in the 80s. And she's
Oh
like,
my
I read,
gosh.
yes. And she was like, I was in the Olympic trials and I didn't make the team and it really ruined my life. And I was like,
Read
wow,
my book.
yes, she had already started it. But I think there are a lot of people with stories like this, like stories about disappointment and redirection. It's more universal than I imagined.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you can have a career as a rifle shooter, can you?
No, but
They-
yeah, but it was like every part of her was, focused on that end
Right,
goal, and then it
right,
fell away. So she could really relate to that feeling of, well, what now? Like everything is over. Everything I
yeah,
thought was going to happen didn't happen.
right. And you just started, I mean, since this is your third book, I'm assuming you started writing later in life. Did you always
Yeah,
want to be an author?
I did. I wanted to be a writer since I was a kid, and I always sort of thought of myself as a writer, but my life just kind of went, like I graduated from college and started teaching right away, met my husband that year. We got married and had our children. I went to graduate school and, then before you know it, you're in your mid 30s. And I actually started writing my first novel like as a New Year's resolution when I was like 36. I was like, okay, you're going to be 40 whether or not you try to write a book. So you should try to write a book if you want to. Um, and I just kind of kept taking one step after another at that point. So Minor Dramas came out when I was um, just about 41. I was going to be 41. So yeah, or maybe 42. I'm 44 now, so 42. Yeah.
So you've written a book a year the last 3 years.
I have. I can't believe that the pandemic
Wow.
and everything. Yeah, my fourth book is contracted but will not be out next year. I need a little reprieve.
Okay. We're all entitled to a little break.
Yeah.
That's for sure. So the first book you actually wrote was Minor Dramas and Other Catastrophes, and it was
Yeah.
picked up.
Yep, that was the first book I finished.
Wow.
I had
Congratulations. That doesn't happen often.
No, I got really, really lucky because the Varsity Blues scandal about college admissions was raging when I wrote that book. And that book is about competitive parenting, like helicopter parenting.
Right.
So it was really in the national conversation at that time. And so I think that really helped me with that book, making it go.
Yeah. But was that during the pandemic or before the pandemic?
That book came out on February 2nd, 2020. So right
Oh.
before the pandemic.
Right.
And
Okay.
then the rest of my career has been in the pandemic.
So you don't really know anything except pandemic writing and
all I
pandemic
know. Yes.
experiences. And so have you had a full tour at all, or?
No, I had a few stops when I did Minor Dramas and then it shut
Okay.
down.
Okay.
And I am going to a few places. I had a book launch for like a party for this book, which was great.
Great.
Yeah, last year was all Zoom. And I said I got so lucky with my first book. With my second book, it was like a reversal of luck. Like everyone had been locked down with their kids for a year, and my second book is about like kids behaving badly and sexting and stuff. And no one wants to read about their kids sexting when they've been locked up with their kids for a year. So it was like a kind of a reversal. So I feel like this is a celebration to be able to be, at least for the moment, out in the world with this book.
So did you have the launch at a local bookstore by you? Is that what you did?
Yeah, well, the local bookstore, Majors and Quinn, is my local bookstore, and they've been wonderful to me. And they still have a cap on their events, so we actually had it at like a co-working space called Modern Well nearby, and there were like 100 people. It was wonderful.
Wow, that's so nice.
It was really great.
So you signed all the books?
I signed all the books, and now I have a few stops. I'll be in Houston and Chicago, South Carolina, so they'll be fun.
Oh, very nice. Oh, yeah. That's wonderful that you get to go out and
I know.
See the people. That's, you know what, that's missed, I hear, by all the authors. But we also have to say the silver lining in all this is I wouldn't be speaking to you if it wasn't for, what happened.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
We're able to speak with so many authors that it never would have happened if it wasn't for the pandemic. So that's the only silver lining.
I agree. I've made a lot of interesting connections over this time too.
Yeah, no, unbelievable. Now, I was reading the book and then the book came out, so I was able to get the audiobook. So I started listening also. I am a big audiobook person, as I heard you are too. Cassandra Campbell, who's one of the best.
I know.
Is the narrator on Home or Away. You got lucky with that one, huh?
I have been unbelievably lucky the whole time, and I'm a huge audiobook person. Yeah. I probably read about half my books annually via audiobook. I love them. Right. And I'm an English teacher too, and I really encourage my students to read use audiobooks. Like, I just think they absolutely count. Some people are like, oh, that doesn't count. I'm like, oh, for sure it does. And my first book had Julia Whalen as the narrator.
Oh, she's amazing too.
She's amazing. And then my second book had Therese Plummer. She did a fantastic job. And then they told me that I was getting Cassandra Campbell, and I was like, I can't believe this. Like, it's miraculous. I haven't heard it. I have it downloaded on my phone, but I haven't started listening yet. Sometimes I really like to listen to the audiobook of my own writing because the performers bring out different things that I wasn't, like I didn't consciously know or wasn't quite aware of as I was writing it. So I'm excited to hear what she has to say. Well,
Yeah,
how
no,
it
it's
sounds,
she's doing an absolutely fabulous job.
I'm sure.
It's so good. It's just so good.
I'm so happy.
I'm really enjoying it. I really am. So what are you reading now, or what do you recommend?
Okay. Well, I am reading The Christie Affair by Nina de
Oh,
Gramont.
okay.
Have you read that?
I haven't, but there was another book that's very similar that came out
Yeah.
early in the year. I read that one. So I
Okay.
haven't picked this one up yet.
I'm enjoying that. I don't generally read a lot of historical fiction, and I
Oh,
happen to be reading two right now. The Christie
okay.
Affair, about the time that Agatha Christie disappeared,
Mhm.
which I didn't know about until these two books.
Right.
And then I'm also listening to The Tobacco Wives by
Oh, I
Adele.
heard that's very good.
It's very good, and I'm going to be able to meet her next week in Houston, so I want to get that listened to before I
Oh,
get to.
that's so nice. You're doing a program together.
Yeah, we're doing a program together called Thoughts from a Page in Houston.
Is it going to be virtual also, or it's just in person?
I think it's just in person, but there's
Okay.
a podcast that goes along with that program, Thoughts from a Page, and I did an episode, and I think Adele has one too.
Okay, very nice. So you've been
Yeah.
doing a lot of these podcast interviews, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I say yes. I mean, if you want to talk to me, I want to talk to you. So,
That's a great attitude. I like that very much. That's a great way to be.
yeah.
So you teach English.
I do. I've taught a lot of levels. I actually love teaching. I found out how much I love teaching during 2019, 2020. I was off from teaching that year, and that was the first pandemic year. And I just found myself really missing the classroom for many reasons. In the pandemic, I just realized that teaching is part of my coping mechanism. Like if I have to be the adult in charge and the adult who like presents a hopeful, optimistic view of the world, then that actually helps me be a person who is hopeful and optimistic about the world. So I missed just guiding kids through a hard time. And I also find like I really like writing. To be honest, I really I like having written. Like the time that I am writing is kind of painful, but I'm very happy when I've finished my session.
I've heard that
Um,
a lot.
yeah, and you don't get a lot of immediate feedback, and you're kind of lonely. Whereas in teaching, like I'm with people, I can see how I'm doing. I can adjust my work in the moment to make a bigger impact. And so teaching brings a lot of joy into my life, a lot of relationships. So it's kind of a nice balance. I'm teaching part-time right now, so which is
Oh,
great.
okay. What grade levels are you teaching?
I'm in 11th grade this
Oh.
year. And I've taught everything from third grade through seniors. So
So what are
yeah.
the 11th graders reading this year?
They are reading A Raisin in the Sun right now,
Okay.
and we'll finish the year with Their Eyes Were Watching God. Um, I'm. We read The Glass Castle. We read The Crucible. We read The
Okay.
Awakening. We've read a lot of things. We read the John Green essay collection,
Wow.
the Seen Reviewed, and Amy Nezuko Matato's essays too, World of Wonders.
Okay, that one I'm not familiar with.
Oh, you have to read that. It's the most beautiful book.
What's her name?
Amy Nezuko Matato, Nez. If you Google Amy Nez, it will come up.
Okay.
And the book is called World of Wonders.
Okay. Definitely not familiar. Sounds
I
okay.
loved it.
Sounds interesting. I
Yeah.
will definitely Google that and take a look at it. So you said you're not writing right now. You're taking a little break.
Well, I am writing. I just
Okay.
took a long time. I took a year to see about writing some murder mysteries, and I really liked the characters I developed, but my editor and I were like, this is not the next project. So, which hasn't happened to me yet. Like I haven't spent a long period of time on something that then we've been like, well, let's put this in a drawer for a while.
Okay.
So we have a new idea now that we just kind of came up with, and I'm saying we, that's mostly me, of course, but in cooperation with my agent and editor. And now I just need to finish this like week of book launching and then sit down, use my part-time time for writing to actually write.
Are you a planner or do you write by the seat of your
Yeah,
pants?
I'm a planner, and then I'm pleasantly surprised as I go through.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes, and I am definitely a person like the magic doesn't happen until I start writing. So I have to actually start typing the chapter. And then sometimes, as I've decided like where we're going to be and who's going to be in the scene, I'll get surprised by something that happens. And that always feels really special.
Well, if you write a murder mystery, you definitely have to be a planner.
I know. So maybe that was too much of a stretch for me right now, but maybe we
Yeah.
can get there down the line.
Yeah, because you have to know who did it.
I know. It's so challenging.
You really do. You have to know exactly what's gonna happen because yeah, that's
Yeah,
for sure. So your acknowledgments are very interesting. I like the way you did that. You want to tell everybody what you did for
sure.
the acknowledgments?
I wrote them as like I tried to put as many mixed sports metaphors in as possible. So I'm like dousing my editor with Gatorade and someone ran me through the X's and O's of this and this person sunk a lot of clutch threes on this. Like I had a fun time writing those.
Yeah, it was very, very interesting. Lots of sports stuff going on there.
Yeah, lots of sports stuff in there.
So when you sit and watch your son's hockey game, when you were watching, I mean, was that where like you just looked out and saw what was going on and like that would be good in the book and that would be good in
Yes.
the book?
Yes, and so much crazy stuff happens in hockey. Like there's a lot of intensity among the parent population in hockey. A lot of yelling at the refs, a lot of people doing shots in the parking lot between periods. Like it gets a little bit wild. My son is a goalie, and it's very stressful to watch for me. So I spend a lot of my time like pacing the rink or standing outside the doors. And also, if you're the parent of the goalie, it's helpful to sit far away from the rest of the team because you're the last stop. So if your kid misses or your kid makes a mistake, like the other team scores. And sometimes it's good to let the parents have their reaction where I can't hear them.
Wow. Does he want to pursue this into college?
Yeah, he's super passionate about
Wow.
hockey. It's very competitive. My other son is a runner, and he is going to be running at Middlebury College next year in Vermont.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah. And hockey is a little different. Like, in order to play hockey in college, you have to go play in this junior system after high
Mhm.
school and play a couple extra years, and then maybe you can go play in a college somewhere. So it's much more competitive. Um, but he's really passionate about it. He's going into ninth grade, and he'll be doing all kinds of training to try to get to be the best he can be.
Yeah, I know that around here, sometimes they were even sent away from home. Like they don't live at home, they go to other places to train
Yeah,
as young kids. Yeah.
I think less so in Minnesota because hockey is so big here that
Oh,
there are
okay.
a lot of local programs. But
Mhm.
kids will go, like some of my son's friends are going to go do like a gap year at a boarding school or
Yeah.
something to get like an extra year of playing before they might go to a college. So it's a really competitive and intense sport.
Yeah. Especially, aren't there a lot of injuries too?
Yeah, and especially head injuries, like it's
Mhm.
dangerous. Those helmet sports, concussions are a real problem.
Mhm.
That's kind of the biggest thing that you see is like concussion.
How about loss of teeth?
Yeah, yes, especially in like the higher levels, they call them chiclets. Like your chiclets are missing.
Uh-huh. You mentioned that in the book. That was in the book.
Yeah, yeah. Someone who
Somebody
didn't
didn't
have
have
their
teeth.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 All
Wow.
the ex-pros will have their fake teeth, their implants.
Right. It's really interesting. Okay. So I really appreciate you being with us.
Oh, I
And
had such a good time, and I'm so happy and honored to be invited.
I just want to let all of our patrons know the book is here in the print form and it's also available on Overdrive in print, in ebook, and also audiobook.
Yay! I'm
So
so happy about
put
that.
your holds in and we'll be happy to get it to you. So this is Kathleen West's third book
Yay!
in 3 years, which I find fabulous to be able to
Thank
do
you.
that and work and raise a family.
Yeah, yeah. I know. It's kind of like I don't even know. I need a nap, I guess.
Yeah, I think we all need a nap
Yeah,
actually. And
yeah.
one
That's
thing we didn't talk about though is Lee, how she is such a hardworking mother and how
yeah.
there's a role reversal. The husband's a stay-at-home dad and she's the one who's the breadwinner in the family.
Yeah, I was really interested in looking at that. How families work in terms of power dynamics and childcare and labor, distribution of labor and everything. And I had Charlie. Charlie's always been the stay-at-home dad between the two of them, and she's always had like the more earning potential and busier career. And And so I felt like that made sense for her because she is so driven. I felt like she would feel her worth as a person would depend on some sort of external validation. So becoming great at something and getting paid a lot for it, I thought would be important to Lee. And then it causes a lot of interesting problems between her and her husband. And most of the time they get along great. And Charlie's doing what he wants to do too. Like he's empowered, he's the writer, he likes raising the kid, and he's pretty happy. But sometimes she likes to, when she gets angry, she throws it in his face that she's the one who makes the money, which is unfair and damaging. And I think happens a lot when the gender roles are reversed. You know, like if the husband is the major wage earner and the wife is at home, a lot falls to that default parent without any acknowledgement. So I was kind of interested in exploring that a little bit.
Yeah, no, definitely. Definitely was something of interest, no doubt about that. Okay, so we really thank you here at Turn the Page, Syosset Public Library podcast. And when the next one comes out, after you take a little break, take it easy.
I'll come back if you'll have
me. We'd love to speak to you again.
I would love that. Thank you so much, Evelyn.
Okay, so this is Evelyn with Kathleen West, closing the next chapter on Turn the Page. So thank you so much, Kathleen. I really appreciate it.
Thanks again.
It's time to close this chapter of Turn the Page. Join us for the next episode.